Hey guys, just wanted to give a quick update now that I've gotten everything together. I said I was gonna make an update video for this. I'm gonna cover both IGVG for both wars and arenas, also the VGBB build that I was using last patch. Let's just jump into it. I'm just gonna do this one take like I usually do. Um, let's see. Helmet. I have Freedom, Shrinking Fort, Refreshing. As you can see, I'm maxed out Refreshing, and I have 3 out of 4 Freedoms. 3 out of 4 Freedoms allows you to jump out of a lot of different combos, like Shockwave and heavy attacks, etc. in heavy, because you get the base 2 from being in heavy armor. Nullifying Oblivion, Shrinking for Freedom. My Mag Gauntlets, I just put health, because there isn't really anything else you can put here because of the physical aversion. If you were to put something, you might be able to get away with like a conditioning if you're stacking that, or any like a weapon perk. Anything really works out here. For the for the pants, I have Unending Thaw, and then on the boots, I have Scream. Jewelry is basically the same. I decided to put a protection on just for war. If you run any kind of arenas or OPR, you can use stamina. You can use stamina regen. Because of the fact that I lost Shirking Heals, it's still good. I just don't think it's as consistent as just building away from it. So I just built away from it. If you're using Shirking Heals still, you definitely want to still have stamina recovery, but if you're using Onk, there's not really much you can do. You're stuck with Health Divine. I just chose Protection. Do what you want to do. For the ring, I actually changed it to Keen because I learned from a couple of friends that if you have Magnetic Gauntlets for VG, you need at least 1 Keen, and Keen on the ring is the easiest to slot because you're not really losing anything. You can still have Purifying Heart, you can still have Leeching, you can still have Hardy. You're only losing a damage, which is only like 7% damage, but there are more important perks to run on the VG, so that doesn't really matter. Earring, pretty much standard. Every build can use this. There's not really a better combination right now. VG, this has changed quite a bit. I was lucky and I actually rolled this way back when, and it ended up being good. But it is Dim Orb, Abyssal Attunement, Plate Crits. Dim Orb because it's way better on weapon than armor. The Scream isn't that much different from weapon and armor, especially if you're running Plate Crits now. So Plague Crits plus Scream on the armor is still disease cap, and if you're running a Keen plus Mag Gauntlets, the chance of you critting is more likely than not. Instead of Attunement, you can run Alacritus Punishment if you're more of like a stat patter. I prefer Attunement just because it's an extra tick for your ult, and this class gets ult very fast. So you're kind of just taking advantage of that. You're able to pump out more ults, especially if you play on point like I do. This is my arena setup. I've just been playing around with it. Pylon Burst is really nice in arenas for a very specific reason. If you have Plague Crits on both weapons, your Pylon will permanently apply Plague Crits. It'll have the same cooldown, so like you can't hit 2 people at the same time with like a Pylon hit and a VG auto. It won't apply to those two. It still has that internal cooldown, but it's just really nice to have for uptime sake. You're not going to be hitting somebody every second in small scale like arenas and stuff. So it's just really nice to have. It really spreads out your disease and makes it so that it's a lot easier to kill people, especially if they have healers. If I were to replace this Shirking Arcane, I'd probably want to put Alacritus Punishment or Attunement. Attunement is really nice because it'll still proc Alacritus Punishment, obviously, just because it's 20% more damage, and a lot of times people have haste. I've been running Bile. Bile is by far the strongest heart rune. There's no reason not to really run Bile. If you're Flail or you're a point VG, you can run Vines, especially if you have Purifying Heart. But I just have been running Bile just because of how much you can spam it, and you have a really high uptime. Attributes, I'm doing 250, 50, and then 315. If you feel like you're comfortable and you want to run more int, you can do that. I don't think it's worth it. I think that more con and more uptime is definitely higher value than, giving your orb 150 more damage per hit. but people run it. I just don't think it's worth it. Protections, this is just kind of for war. I found this to be one of the more tanky things, especially with Shirking Fort. If you're running off point, obviously it's going to look different, and you're probably going to be running Enchanted Ward instead of running Shirking Fort, but that's just how it goes. For the talents, for the Ice Gauntlet, this is the pylon setup that I run for arenas. If you are running a standard war setup, you're going to be using... Oh wait, I forgot they don't take that. This is going to be your standard war setup. You're going to be running Deadly Frost on your Ice Gauntlet, which I have right here. So you're going to be running refreshing move, Deadly Frost attunement, or just any attunement. This is what I run for wars, but right now I'm running my arena setup because I'm farming arenas. For the VG, it's the same setup as always. I'm going to get into something a little bit later where I kind of theorycraft because Ankh isn't super useful for VGs anymore, at least in my opinion. Obviously, it's still good, especially in like wars where you have a dedicated healer. But I do think that VGs might have another option coming into the next patch with Season 4, just based on some of the PTR feedback and the PTR changes, but we'll get into that. If you are going to end up running this build, and you want to play BB, you can replace this piece with instead of running Freedom and Shrinking Fort, you're going to be running Freedom Shrinking Fort plus Plague Nades. And then you can just run Pestilence instead of an IG. Because most of the talents and most of the perks are going to be more catered towards your VG. So if you're running the VG BB, you can just replace the Thaw and then run Pestilence. And you'll be even more disease focused and anti-heal focused. One of the biggest changes to the Ankh that they're doing in Season 4 is they're making this actually work against life stealing, and Sacred Grounds will do the same thing. What this means is that its debuff is going to count for life stealing as well, which currently isn't a thing to my knowledge. And VG has a ton of life stealing. If you look at it, you have 15 here on crits, and you also heal if you run heavy attacks. You heal 20%. So all of these are going to be 25% weaker. So 20% of 20 is like 4. And then 15 obviously is going to be a little bit less. VG doesn't really do that much damage, but the healing is definitely noticeable. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that with the change in Season 4, the Blood Drinker Ring is going to be a little bit more of a viable option, I think. If you're running solo content, I don't know how it'll be in war. I imagine it would be good. But there isn't really anything to test it now because there isn't wars on PTRs. But the way that it's getting buffed is it's still 25% damage. You get 25% lifesteal, but there's an extra passive. Every single lifestealing effect that you have will increase by 5%. So this leeching on its ring will go up by another 5%. The lifesteal goes up another 5%. If you go to the VG tree, you'll heal for 20% on crit instead of 15%. If you're using heavy attacks, you'll heal an additional 25 instead of 20. And all of this kind of leads up to healing on... I think I was healing on the dummies for anywhere between 1.1 to like 1.7k. And I actually didn't test it with the leeching bolts, so it could be higher. Obviously, dummies don't have armor. They don't have elemental resist, so it's going to be lower in wars and PvP. But it is something to be able to test. It did feel really good. You're not really losing that much damage because, like I always reiterate, IGVG doesn't really do that much damage. It just deals a lot of damage over time and to a lot of people. Because with Mad Gauntlets, you're already gutting your damage, and then you're cutting it down a little bit more because it's like 25% base damage, which equates to like 10 to 15% overall damage, which is still a lot. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I'll keep you guys updated with season 4 coming in the next couple of weeks. But I think that this is going to be the setup that I'm going to stick with for wars, for arenas, and OPRs. Um, I still need to roll a BB piece, and then I'm going to be running with my BB as well. Same stuff. And I hope you guys have been enjoying New World so far. It's been kind of dying down until season 4, but hopefully season 4 brings more people back and it gets more fun. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments, and I'll try and answer them as best as I can.